The Jerusalem Gift Shop, 10% off everything. Coupon code ILTV.
Hey everyone, we know how hard it can be to keep up with the latest news, so if you haven't had time to stay on top of what's what in the Holy Land with ILTV, have no worries. Stay tuned for our weekly review where we'll give you the scoop on the biggest stories that you may have missed in the last 7 days, right from Tel Aviv. I'm Aaron Porras, and thank you for joining us. Speaking at a United Nations Security Council meeting on Wednesday evening, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Dani Danon, accused the Lebanese army of passing on information to terror group Hezbollah and of failing to allow UN peacekeepers to halt the cross-border tunneling operation. More specifically, Danon said that Lebanese officials, army officials more specifically, were working for Hezbollah while UNIFOR was not working to fulfill its mandate in the region. The meeting was called by the United States on behalf of Israel, which sought to condemn Hezbollah's terrorist activities. And at the meeting, United Nations Under-Secretary for Peacekeeping Operations Chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix confirmed that the organization had asked Lebanon to assist in tracking the tunnels on the Lebanese side, and that UNIFOR also confirms that 2 terror tunnels did cross the Blue Line into Israel's territory, violating United Nations Resolution 1701. Now, ahead of the UN Security Council meeting, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also held a press conference and told journalists that Hezbollah is endangering Lebanon with its terror tunnel network, which he called an act of war. He also pointed the finger at Beirut, saying that the Lebanese government and army has failed to contain the threat.
This is not merely an act of aggression, it's an act of war. And is a part of a war plan, I would say. Part of a war plan. It's been confirmed by UNIFIL. UNIFIL has confirmed the existence of these tunnels, and they have said that they represent a clear violation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. I hope that the Security Council will stand up for the truth and for peace and security. I hope that it takes the necessary action, the correct action, the moral action. And in the meantime, Israel will continue to take all the necessary action to protect our people and defend our borders.
Now, while it was unlikely from the start that anything would actually come out of the meeting, Netanyahu's rhetoric and Israel's UN push is seen by some as laying the foundation for an eventual incursion into Lebanon to complete Operation Northern Shield. Additionally, on Wednesday, Netanyahu also said that Hezbollah had shut down plants to develop precision-guided missiles outside of Beirut, and that the terror organization had only, quote, at most a few dozen of these missiles left. Meanwhile, however, Lebanon says it is fully committed to the UN Resolution 1701, which ended the 2006 Second Lebanon-Israel War, and has called on the Lebanese military to, quote, take all necessary measures, end quote, to ensure its implementation in coordination with UNIFIL forces. Lebanon has also pointed the finger at Israel, though, for its alleged violations of the resolution. Finally, in related news, Leon Panetta, who served as United States President Barack Obama's Secretary of Defense and Director of the CIA, said in an interview with Israel's Army Radio that the United States cannot ignore the developments along the Israel-Lebanon border. He said that as defense minister under Obama, the United States understood the threat of Hezbollah, and he said that he hopes the Trump administration is taking this threat seriously too. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel will study the situation in Syria following the United States' announcement that it was pulling its troops from Syria. United States President Donald Trump, in a surprise announcement yesterday, tweeted a video in which he said that the United States has beaten ISIS, and so it's time for U.S. troops to come back home.
We've been fighting for a long time in Syria. I've been president for almost 2 years, and we've really stepped it up, and we have won against ISIS. We've beaten them, and we've beaten them badly. We've taken back the land, and now it's time for our troops to come back home. I get very saddened when I have to write letters or call parents or wives or husbands of soldiers who have been killed fighting for our country. It's a great honor. We cherish them, but it's heartbreaking. There's no question about it. It's heartbreaking. Now we've won. It's time to come back. They're getting ready. You're going to see them soon. These are great American heroes. These are great heroes of the world because they fought for us, but they've killed ISIS, who hurts the world. And we're proud to have done it. And I'll tell you, they're up there looking down on us. And there is nobody happier or more proud of their families to put them in a position where they've done such good for so many people. So our boys, our young women, our men, they're all coming back, and they're coming back now. We won. And that's the way we want it, and that's the way they want it.
Trump's announcement came as a shock to United States allies, including senior Republican officials, all of whom say that the United States' withdrawal could lead to a resurgence of ISIS. The decision was also widely seen in the Pentagon and among United States allies as benefiting both Russia and Iran, which have used their support of the Syrian government to bolster their influence in the region. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally, also called the president's decision a huge Obama-like mistake and said it was unwise to put the Kurds, whom are U.S. allies who helped fight against ISIS, at risk. Currently, some 2,000 United States troops are stationed in the Kurdish region in northern Syria. Meanwhile, Russia hailed the announcement and said that the United States' decision to withdraw troops creates prospects for a political settlement to the ongoing crisis in the country. TASS news agency reported the Russian Foreign Ministry as saying this on Wednesday.
אני שוחחתי שלשום עם נשיא ארצות הברית דונלד טראמפ ואתמול עם מזכיר המדינה האמריקני מייק פומפאו. הממשל האמריקני אמר לי שזוהי כוונת הנשיא להוציא את כוחותיהם מסוריה. הם גם הבהירו שיש להם דרכים אחרות להביא לידי ביטוי את השפעתם בזירה. זוהי כמובן החלטה אמריקנית. אנחנו נלמד קודם כל את לוחות הזמנים שלה ואת צורת ההפעלה שלה, וכמובן את ההשלכות לגבינו. בכל מקרה אנחנו נדאג לשמור על ביטחון ישראל ולהגן על עצמנו מהזירה הזאת.
Outgoing United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, said on Tuesday that the United States peace plan for Israel and the Palestinians brings, quote, new elements to the discussion, end quote, and takes advantage of the new world of technology that we live in. These comments come while speaking at Ambassador Haley's last United Nations Security Council meeting before she resigns, and in which the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was the core topic. And while Haley gave no concrete details of what the long-awaited plan entails, she did say that she read it and that it is, quote, much longer and contains much more thoughtful detail than any previous plan. She added that the plan recognizes that the realities on the ground in the Middle East have changed in powerful and important ways, and that likewise the plan itself is radically different. What remains to be seen, however, according to Haley, is whether the response to the plan will be any different. She said that there are things in the plan that, quote, every party will like and things that every party will not like, end quote, but that no matter what, the international community and the Arab states in particular will need to support the plan if it's to be a success.
It is time we faced a hard truth. Both sides would benefit greatly from a peace agreement, but the Palestinians would benefit more, and the Israelis would risk more. It is with this backdrop in mind that the Trump administration has crafted its plan for peace between Israel and the Palestinians. To my Arab friends, I have heard privately from many of you. You've said that you know a solution is urgently needed, but your governments have not been willing to talk to your constituencies about what is realistic, or to the Palestinian leadership about the harm they're doing to their very own people. By taking the easy way, you're really saying that the Palestinian people are not a priority for you. Because if they were, you would all be in a room helping bring both sides to the table.
Following the meeting, though, 8 European Union member states already warned United States President Donald Trump that his peace plan would undoubtedly fail if it did not adhere to a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders and with Jerusalem as the divided capital of both states. The countries reiterated their commitment to the, quote, internationally agreed upon parameters, end quote, saying that any plan that fails to recognize these parameters would risk being condemned to failure. The joint statement was made by France, the Netherlands, Poland, Sweden, the UK, Belgium, Germany, and Italy. The Ministerial Committee for Legislation approved a bill Sunday night that calls to expel the families of terrorists in the West Bank. According to the proposal, which is sponsored by the Jewish Home Party leader Naftali Bennett, the IDF Central Command would be given the right to expel the family of a terrorist from one area of the West Bank to another within a week of the attack. Bennett and his right-wing party have repeatedly called for the state to take tougher measures against Palestinian terror as part of Israel's deterrence capabilities. And on Sunday, Bennett, along with other cabinet members, participated in a protest in Jerusalem calling for harsher responses as well. This expulsion bill was passed under the same guise. However, following the bill's approval, Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit announced his official opposition, warning that the proposal could be in violation of international law. Meanwhile, in related news, the Knesset Finance Committee also approved compensation payments for residents of the Gaza border communities in light of the recent conflict last month. Among those eligible for assistance include Palestinian parents who had to miss days of work, business owners, and the tourism industry.
The Knesset voted to formally approve Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's appointment as permanent defense minister late Monday evening. This after Netanyahu had taken on the defense portfolio last month when Israel Beitenu leader Avigdor Lieberman resigned from his position and the coalition in protest of Israel's policies in Gaza.
But under Israeli law, when a minister leaves his position, the portfolio automatically passes on to the prime minister for a maximum of 3 months until a new appointment can be made, or in this case, until the prime minister gets formal approval from the Knesset. Well, Netanyahu now currently holds, in addition to the prime minister's office, a total of 4 government portfolios: the foreign minister, defense minister, health minister, and immigration and absorption minister. The vote Monday night encountered staunch criticism from the opposition and only narrowly passed with a majority of 59 in favor and 56 opposed, however. Jewish Home Party leader Naftali Bennett and his number 2, Ayelet Shaked, who earlier said they would abstain from the vote, ended up supporting Netanyahu, though. Last month, Bennett demanded that he receive the defense portfolio, threatening to otherwise leave the coalition and topple the government. But in the end, he retracted this ultimatum. Yesh Atid party leader Yair Lapid also harshly criticized Netanyahu, though, and said, quote, Israel can't allow him to stay, end quote. He added that in looking at his first month on the job as defense minister, he had failed to keep Israelis safe amidst a wave of Palestinian terror attacks. Opposition leader Tzipi Livni cited Netanyahu's, quote, political weakness as well, and said that while he makes promises for security, in reality, this was not the case.
Launched in early December, IDF Operation Northern Shield has now exposed and publicized a 4th Hezbollah terror tunnel crossing the blue line from Lebanon into Israel. The tunnels, which Israel believes are just a fraction of the total that were dug, constitute a clear violation of the ceasefire agreement in UN Resolution 1701, and they were dug with intent to attack Israel and Israelis. Now, officials from UNIFOR, or the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, have finally agreed on that too.
On Tuesday, they confirmed the existence of all 4 tunnels exposed thus far, concluding that, quote, after further technical investigations conducted independently in accordance with its mandate, UNIFOR at this stage can confirm that 2 of the tunnels cross the blue line. These constitute violations of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, end quote. Now all that remains is for UNIFOR to demand that Lebanon do something about it. Lebanon's President Aoun, Prime Minister-designate Hariri, and several others have indicated that they would work to comply with the UN's directions. But their commitments haven't been specific, and no actions have yet been taken. Israel, meanwhile, is asking the international community for tougher sanctions on Iranian-backed terror group Hezbollah, which dug the tunnels, and for pressure to be added on Lebanon as well to push for Lebanon's army to aid in Operation Northern Shield from the Lebanese side. But so far, only Russia has reportedly pressured Lebanon to comply with Israel's request. The United States has supported Israel's operation to protect its sovereignty, but has held back from fully pressuring Lebanon to act. And UNIFOR troops have been deployed to maintain stability along the border in the meantime. Operation Northern Shield is set to take many more weeks to complete, with an unknown number of tunnels yet to find.
Late on Sunday evening, IDF forces began the demolition of the home of Ashraf Naalwa, aka the Balkan terrorist. Naalwa shot dead 2 of his co-workers in the Balkan Industrial Park on October 7th, Kim Levringon Yecheskel and Ziv Hajbi. He was then finally caught and killed on December 13th after over 2 months at large.
According to the IDF, he was also reportedly planning a second attack. This comes after a week of multiple attacks and IDF response operations in the West Bank as well, including 2 drive-by shootings, a stabbing, and an attempted car ramming. 2 soldiers and a newborn baby were killed, and several others were seriously injured. On a related note, after weeks of investigation, Israeli security officials have concluded that an attack in Eilat last month between a Jordanian man and 2 Israelis was also in fact a terror attack. The Shin Bet reportedly found that the Jordanian national who had been working in Eilat for a few days prior to the attack was nationalistically motivated when he seriously wounded his 2 Israeli co-workers using a hammer. A second Jordanian worker was also wounded trying to stop the attack. Israeli officials have vowed harsh responses, with Prime Minister Netanyahu promising that attackers of Israel will pay with their lives. And this latest demolition also comes just a few days after the demolition of the home of Islam Abu Hamaid, who killed IDF Sergeant Ronen Lubarsky in Ramallah last May. Still, many even within the coalition are calling for more. Speaking at a protest earlier this week outside the Prime Minister's residence, Education Minister Naftali Bennett said, quote, I call on the Prime Minister, if you make a promise, keep it, end quote. For example, Bennett explained that, quote, we are tired of promises. The Prime Minister promised that terrorists' homes would be demolished within 48 hours, but they have yet to demolish the homes of Ari Fold's murderers and the murderers of the soldiers in Givat Asaf, end quote. Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked, Agriculture Minister Uri Ariel, Economy Minister Eli Cohen, and multiple others were also in attendance.
Rona Ramon, the widow of Israeli astronaut Ilan Ramon and the mother of Israeli Air Force pilot Asaf Ramon, who was killed in a training accident at the age of 21, died on Monday at the age of 54 following a battle with pancreatic cancer.
Despite the terrible tragedies that had befallen her family, Ramon, who is a mother of 3 additional children, became a symbol of hope and perseverance for many in the country over the last 10 years. Her husband, Ilan Ramon, was killed in 2003 on board the Columbia Space Shuttle, which disintegrated during re-entry. But after, Rona Ramon spent the better part of the last decade honoring the memories of her husband and son through the establishment of the Ramon Foundation, which inspires young Israelis to strive for academic excellence and to pursue their dreams. Her death also brought an outpouring of condolences and well-wishes from Israel's public as well as the political elite, including President Reuven Rivlin, who said that, quote, Ilan and Asaf touched the sky, but Rona touched our hearts. And finally, at the request of the family, Rona will lie in state at the Perez Center for Peace and Innovation in Tel Aviv Jaffa on Wednesday morning so that people can pay their final respects.
Meanwhile, the Israeli Social Workers Union suspended all welfare services throughout the country today as part of a nationwide strike, both in protest of violence targeting welfare workers and in protest of overall poor working conditions.
The social workers are calling for urgent reforms to ensure the protection of employees, higher salaries, and overall improved work environments. Currently, social service workers claim that they are overworked, underpaid, and subject to violence on a daily basis in their line of work, and the social workers are not the only group protesting either. In related news, the Yellow Vest protests seen in France have finally reached Israel too. On Friday, social protesters donned similarly iconic yellow vests and took to the streets of Tel Aviv in demonstrations against massive scheduled price increases for water, electricity, and food. All but one of Israel's 10 biggest food and household goods producers have announced an increase in prices, with Israeli brand Osem even announcing this week that it will increase prices for about a third of its products over the coming year. As for electricity prices, they're expected to rise between 6 and 8% beginning January 1st, with water prices expected to rise by at least 4.5% as well. Additionally, municipal taxes are expected to rise, and even mobile phone companies have announced intended price hikes in their monthly plans. To make matters worse, several economists, analysts, and legal experts have all studied the planned changes in taxes and pricing and concluded that price hikes are actually likely to rise by 3 to 4% more than are currently reported by the government.
After months of hinting, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced on Saturday that Australia will finally recognize West Jerusalem as Israel's capital, leaving East Jerusalem for a future Palestinian state. Morrison also said that he looks forward to moving the embassy in kind, quote, when practical.
Australia believes this position respects both our commitment to a two-state solution and long-standing respect for relevant Security Council resolutions. It's a balanced view. It's a measured view. It's a well-considered view. It reinforces our clear view that the status of Jerusalem can only be resolved through direct negotiations between the parties consistent with those relevant Security Council resolutions.
But the decision was received with very mixed reviews. The Palestinian Authority, the Arab League, and several other Muslim or Arab states all condemned the move, saying it will undermine security and stability. Palestinian Authority Foreign Minister Riyad al-Malki said it showed a total bias towards Israel, and Palestinian Authority negotiator Saeb Erekat went even further, accusing Australia of violating UN Security Council resolutions, saying that, quote, all of Jerusalem remains a final status issue for negotiations, while East Jerusalem, under international law, is an integral part of the occupied Palestinian territory, end quote. No Israeli officials were too quick to issue congratulations either, though. Israel's official policy is that Jerusalem is and will remain the undivided capital of the Jewish state. This led to a very tame statement acknowledging the move, but not welcoming it. The Israeli Foreign Ministry thanked Australia for support against Iran and anti-Semitism and for Israel at the United Nations, but only called the recognition of West Jerusalem, quote, a step in the right direction, end quote.
אוסטרליה ידידה עמוקה ורבת שנים ואינטימית של ישראל. שמחנו לשמוע שיש לה עניין להבהיר את ההכרה שלה בירושלים כבירת ישראל, אבל לצערנו, בתוך הבשורה החיובית הזאת הם עשו טעות. אין הפרדה בין מזרח העיר למערב העיר. ירושלים אחת היא מאוחדת, שליטת ישראל בה היא נצחית, הריבונות שלנו איננה ניתנת לחלוקה או לערעור. ואנחנו מקווים שאוסטרליה תמצא את הדרך בקרוב לתקן את המשגה שהיא עשתה.
There was no response at all from the Prime Minister's office. Perhaps the most surprising response actually comes from Bahrain, though, a country with no official diplomatic ties to the Jewish state. While the Arab League condemned Australia's, quote, irresponsible and biased decision, the Bahraini foreign minister Khalid bin Ahmed Al Khalifa tweeted, quote, "These are irresponsible statements. Australia's position does not hamper the legitimate demands of the Palestinians and first and foremost East Jerusalem as the Palestinian capital. It also does not contradict the Arab Peace Initiative," end quote. It's not exactly a statement supportive of Israel, but it certainly doesn't appear to be against Israel either. And just earlier this month, Al Khalifa also supported on Twitter Israel's Operation Northern Shield to find and destroy Hezbollah terror tunnels from Lebanon.
And now for this week's Top 5 with ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh.
2019 is literally right around the corner, and that means all the numbers, data, and statistics about this year are all coming out, whether it's the Forbes wealthiest celeb list or the most searched for on Google. I'm here to give you guys ILTV's top 5 list of what Israelis Googled most in 2018. The number 1 most searched word or phrase in Israel and, well, globally, was the World Cup. This year, the televised game was held in Russia during June and July and racked up over 700 million views worldwide. Meanwhile, I only saw a little bit of it. Second up most Googled in Israel was the broadcasting network Reshet's reality show, Big Brother. Now, I have to say, and I know it's weird to some, this is most definitely a guilty pleasure, but I'm kind of shocked it's number 2. This was the 9th season of the show so far, and I'm excited to see what season 10 has to bring. Third up most researched was actually the new Israeli public broadcaster Kan 11. The new channel hit the airwaves back in May and actually got the honor of airing both the World Cup and the famous Eurovision contest, which our very own Netta Barzilai won. Can't wait to see them broadcast this year's Eurovision contest right here in Israel. Fourth up most Googled term in Israel in 2018 was Inbal Ol, which you may not recognize, but here in Israel, she's a very well-known real estate developer who this year filed for bankruptcy and was actually charged with tax evasion. So, safe to say this wasn't her finest year. And fifth on the list, I'm sure you can all guess, Netta Barzilai. It's less than shocking that Netta would make the top 5, but considering she won the biggest international song contest, it's fair to say she deserves it. For those who don't know, Netta Barzilai was this year's Eurovision Song Contest winner with her song Toy. And that's all for today's top 5. Back to you.
All right, that's it for this week's weekly review. Remember to follow us on Facebook for more news at Israel English News and, of course, on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you for watching.
The Jerusalem Gift Shop, 10% off everything. Coupon code ILTV.